The rain had been falling for 3 straight days, smearing the city in streaks of gray. From her kitchen window, Anna watched the high-rise across the street, its dozens of lit rectangles flickering like a grid of restless eyes. Her tea had long gone cold in her hands, but she didn't notice. She was listening. For weeks now, she had been catching a sound beneath the usual hum of city life. Not sirens, not traffic, not the muted conversations drifting from her neighbors' apartments. This was something else. It came late at night, usually around 2 or 3 in the morning. A faint knock, knock, knock from somewhere in the building. At first, she thought it was the radiator or old pipes, but the pattern was too deliberate, too human. 3 knocks, a pause, then 3 more, always at the same hour. Anna lived alone in apartment 6A. She had moved in 6 months ago after finally saving enough to escape the suffocating flat she once shared with her parents. The building was nothing special: concrete walls, peeling paint in the stairwells, a smell of mold that clung to the basement. But it was hers, and the rent was manageable. She told herself she could endure the creaks, the thin walls, the way the elevator groaned like it resented every ride. It was when the knocking started that she began to doubt her choice. The first time, she sat up in bed and listened, heart quickening. The sound had come from the direction of her wall, the one she shared with apartment 6B. That was strange, because 6B had been empty for months. She had checked with the landlord before moving in. The previous tenant had left suddenly, leaving the unit locked and unoccupied. Supposedly, no one had taken it since. The knocking persisted for nearly 20 minutes that night. She pressed her ear against the wall, straining. Sometimes she thought she heard something beneath the knocks, like a whisper too faint to make out. But whenever she tried to focus on it, silence returned. By morning, she convinced herself it was a dream. But then it happened again and again. By the 4th night, she decided she had to know. She waited until the sound began, 3 slow knocks, like someone's knuckles brushing wood from the other side of her wall. Her stomach clenched. She grabbed her phone, slipped into a sweater, and stepped out into the hallway. The corridor was dim, lit by a single buzzing bulb. She stared at the door to 6B, just across from hers. Dust lined the threshold. The lock was sealed with a strip of red tape, the kind management used when a unit was vacated. It was unbroken. Still, the knocking continued, muffled but clear. Anna's breath caught. She raised her hand and knocked back 3 times, mimicking the rhythm. The response was immediate. 3 knocks, louder this time, like someone directly answering her. Her skin prickled. She stepped back, heart pounding. The next morning, she went downstairs to speak with the superintendent, a broad man named Oleg with thick glasses and a perpetually annoyed expression. She explained the noise, the knocking from 6B. Oleg grunted and flipped through a binder. "Empty unit," he said flatly. "Has been since last year. No electricity, no water, pipes disconnected, no one inside." "I heard it," Anna insisted. "Every night. It answers when I knock." "Then you're hearing things," Oleg muttered. He snapped the binder shut. "Walls are thin. Could be echo from upstairs. Could be heating. You'll get used to it." She wanted to argue, but the way he looked at her, tired, dismissive, made her swallow her words. That night, the knocking came again, louder, closer. Anna lay in bed, covers pulled to her chin, her lamp still on. Every muscle in her body screamed at her not to move, not to acknowledge it. But then came something new, a voice. At first, she thought it was a trick of her imagination, born of sleeplessness and fear. But no, there it was, just barely audible under the knocks. A woman's voice, whispering. She couldn't make out the words, but it was steady, as though someone was murmuring right against the wall. Her throat went dry. Slowly, she lifted her phone and recorded the sound. The knocks came clearly, 3 by 3. The whisper was faint, but there. When she played the clip back, however, the whisper was gone. Only the knocks remained. She didn't sleep until dawn. The days blurred. At work, she struggled to focus, her eyes gritty, her nerves stretched thin. She told no one. How could she? Who would believe that an empty apartment had begun talking to her? She caught herself staring at her coworkers, wondering if any of them had experienced something like this. The city bustled outside the office windows, honking cars, rushing pedestrians, neon lights blinking across wet asphalt, and yet she felt impossibly alone. By the second week, she was unraveling. Every night the knocks came. Every night the whisper grew louder, closer. Sometimes it sounded like it was right behind her, just on the other side of her headboard. Finally, she snapped. She waited until morning, when she felt braver, and went again to 6B. She crouched, studying the door. The tape was still there, unbroken, though slightly curled at the edges. She placed her ear against the cold wood. Silence. She glanced down the hallway, empty. Then, before she could talk herself out of it, she slid a hairpin from her pocket. She had never tried to pick a lock before, but desperation lent her a kind of fevered determination. She jiggled and twisted, her heart racing, certain at any moment someone would round the corner and accuse her of trespassing. Then, with a tiny metallic click, the lock gave way. Her breath hitched. She pushed the door open. The apartment was empty. Dust lay thick across the floor. The air smelled of damp plaster and something else, something metallic, faint but clinging. She stepped inside cautiously, her footsteps echoing. The rooms were bare, the wallpaper yellowing, the windows streaked with grime. But something about the place felt wrong. The silence wasn't the natural stillness of an empty room. It was heavy, oppressive, like the air itself was holding its breath. She moved to the wall she shared with her bedroom. She pressed her hand against it, half expecting to feel warmth or vibration or something, but it was just plaster. And yet, standing there, she felt watched. She turned sharply, her pulse hammering. The apartment was empty. She told herself she was imagining it, but every instinct screamed that someone or something was there with her. She left quickly, locking the door behind her. That night, the knocking didn't come. For 3 days, there was silence. Anna almost convinced herself she had ended it by confronting the apartment. But then, on the 4th night, she woke to a sound more terrible than before. Not knocking, scratching. Fingernails dragging down the wall behind her bed, slow and deliberate. She clamped her hands over her ears, tears springing to her eyes. The scratching went on for hours, stopping only as the first light of dawn crept through her curtains. When she dared to look, she saw it. Faint grooves etched into the paint of her bedroom wall, long and vertical, as though something had clawed its way from the other side. Her legs gave out beneath her. She curled on the floor, shaking. Anna tried to leave. She packed a bag, called in sick, and booked a cheap hotel across town. That night, she collapsed into the stiff bed, exhausted but hopeful. Maybe she could sleep. Maybe it couldn't follow her. But at 2:47 a.m., she woke. The sound was faint, almost lost beneath the hum of the city outside. 3 knocks, on the hotel wall beside her bed. Her scream lodged in her throat. She didn't sleep again. By now, she looked like a ghost herself, hollow-eyed, pale, jittery. She stopped going to work, too afraid to leave her apartment for long. The landlord left voicemails demanding rent, but she ignored them. None of it mattered. The thing in 6B, whatever it was, had chosen her. She could feel it, crawling closer each night. The whispers grew clearer. Sometimes she thought she could make out her own name in them. Anna, Anna, come closer. She started keeping the lights on at all times. She barely ate. She jumped at every sound. And then, one night, the knocking stopped entirely. The silence was worse. She lay in bed, trembling, straining to hear. Nothing. Relief flickered, uncertain. Maybe it was over. Maybe it had finally gone. And then she felt it. The weight. Something pressing down on the mattress beside her, slow, deliberate. The indent deepening as though someone, unseen, had lain down next to her. Her scream finally broke free. She bolted upright, grabbed her phone, and snapped on the flashlight. The bed was empty, but the sheets were indented as if shaped by an invisible body.
The whisper came directly in her ear, clear for the first time. "Don't leave me." Anna was never seen at work again. The landlord eventually entered 6A to reclaim the unit. The apartment was found empty, her belongings scattered. The only thing unusual was the wall shared with 6B. Deep scratches covering nearly every inch, as though someone had clawed at it for weeks. Apartment 6B remained sealed. No new tenants moved in. But sometimes, late at night, residents on the 6th floor reported a sound. 3 knocks. A pause. 3 more. And, if you listen closely, sometimes you can hear a woman's voice behind it, whispering.